Okay, the more you learn, the easier it is to learn more. Okay, that's always true. The more you know about something, the quicker you can know more about it. The better your understanding, the better you are at playing the game. Okay, what we're supposed to be doing here is pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, right? That means lowering our entropy, raising the quality of our consciousness, growing spiritually. That's what we're doing here, okay? And it's cumulative. You have to work at it. You can do a lot better at it if you try than if you just bumble way through. That's the point of understanding. That's the point of learning the theory. You're going to be better at it if you know what you're doing than you are if you're just wandering around clueless. So that's kind of obvious, isn't it? Okay, this is talking about getting ready. I think we've already mentioned that. That's the main thing you ought to be working on. You say, what's the main event here? Where should I put my energy and my focus? Put your energy on focus on getting ready, not on going. If you get ready, the going is trivial. So just get ready. Drop fear, drop ego. Okay, you have to learn through experience, and this getting ready means at the being level. It's not at the intellectual level. See, most of us will convince ourselves, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready right now. No problem. Let's go. But that's all at the intellectual level. It's the getting rid of the ego and fear. Well, how do you get rid of the ego, fear? And I should add beliefs. Getting rid of the beliefs. It's the beliefs are a trap. The beliefs keep you from going. The beliefs keep you from interpreting correctly. So just get rid of all that junk, and then the going will kind of happen easily. Quality, significance, and value of your experience is a variable, right, that expresses the quality of you. You can get into the non-physical before you're actually ready, and if you do, you may have scary experiences, you may not. You know, you can go to a great library and read comic books. You know, it's kind of wasting the available resources, but a lot of people, all they do when they get into the larger reality is play. They go there and play. Let's have an experience, you know, particularly the drug takers. Let's have a wow experience. You know, let's blast into the reality and see colored pictures and feel to be one and be connected for a little while till the drug wears off, and then we're disconnected again. See, they have an experience. So if you want to go to play, then it's like going to the greatest library you can imagine and reading comic books or something like that. So have a bigger picture. Keep a big picture focus. Okay. Okay, now that gets us up to section 5, another pretty picture by Judy Johnson. On to the next one. Okay, gaining access. I think we talked mostly about this. It's just switching your data stream. It's simple, your consciousness, you're already out of body. You just have to connect to the right data stream. Now, for the most part, sometimes people worry about access. For the most part, access is a self-policing system. Okay, because there's some people, once you get to that, to where you can travel around in a larger reality system, once you get to be able to be in that point consciousness and then focus your intent, it worries people that maybe the people that they don't like, maybe bad people, maybe people who are very negative or very controlling would get to these places, and then they would be able to do bad things. They would be able to control, you know, and you have all these worries. And some of those worries are well-founded, that's true. That sort of thing does happen, but it's minor compared to the bigger picture. But mostly it's self-policing. If you have a lot of ego, then you won't get very far. You'll gain just a little bit of ability to manipulate things or whatever, but you never get to be really very powerful or very strong. Okay, so that's self-policing. That ego, that fear keeps you from evolving very much. So now let's talk about those negative entities. Those entities that went into entropy reduction by control, and they're negative. Well, they have a ceiling on about how big and how much power they can get. They can only get about so far, and that's about all that control will take them. Whereas The headroom on the positive side, where you're evolving toward love, doesn't really have an end. It goes way up past that. So the negative side is limited in what it can do. On the other hand, if you have an entity on the negative side that has grown up from, say, here's common, and it's grown this far, well, it seems powerful to those that haven't grown at all, right? It can seem like, by relative comparison, that it can get a lot of power. But that's just relative. What you need to do is grow up some, and then it's less likely that any of that will ever affect you. So it's another good reason for growing up. It makes you more invulnerable. Okay? Gives you more resistance. And why does it give you more resistance? Because the very act of growing up means you're getting rid of those beliefs and those fears that make you susceptible, you see? So it's a self-policing system to a large degree. The negative is possible, but it's limited. Some of it may appear to you to be very powerful, but that's because it's worked a long time to get there, and you're not as powerful as perhaps you should be had you worked a long time to get there. Most of the time, that negative culture, those negative beings do not interface with us if we do not have truck with them. If we don't interface with them, if we're not in their world, in their business, they're not in our world, in our business. Not always true, but most of the time that's true. So basically it's like, don't walk through bad neighborhoods at night. Don't go places where you shouldn't be, and you can do that just by not following your ego. If you're in this larger reality and you're motivated by love, by caring, by learning, by trying to find out, then that won't take you into any bad neighborhoods. If you're in this larger reality and you want to know how to control, how to get that information that will make you, be able to win and be better at this thing, then you may run into some of those bad neighborhoods because you're in there working ego problems, fear problems, you see. So if you have the right motivation, you'll be fine. Nobody should feel any fear about experimenting with any of these states. Okay. All right. I think this is obvious. If you try to have somebody else's experience, if you try to use somebody else's tools, they're liable to be limiting for you. Now, you may run into somebody's tools that just work for you well, like the chakra system may work for you well, or the shamanic system may work for you really well. You may be particularly resonant with that because you already have experience with that, say in previous lives or other things, and you may just get to that and it resonates and you like it and it speaks to you and you feel good with it. Well, then use it, All of these rituals and these tools are there for a reason. People have used them successfully. But I'm saying, don't get trapped by them. Don't be limited by them. You can go maybe beyond what those tools and what what those rituals and tools and things will get you. Don't be trapped. Don't be limited. And don't feel like you can't grow. You're not up to it. You're not capable because somebody else's tools don't work well for you. That's why there's 1,000 different tool sets. Every group, everybody out there, every guru that's teaching, every group, every ism and every teacher has his own tool set. And he has followers that use that tool set. And that's terrific. What's bad about it is that the followers that use this tool set then feel like they have to kill the followers that use that tool set because their tools are different or they're contradictory, or one says, these tools are right, and the other says, those tools don't matter. These tools are right. And religious symbols, right? We have religions doing that. They have their own tools, right? Religion is one of these models with their own tool sets. Okay? There's lots of tool sets. The shamanic practices vary from place to place, but a lot of them have a lot of similarities. But they all have their own tool sets. And some of the tool sets are similar. We have Eastern philosophy, Eastern theology. There's another tool set. That's where you find your chakras. Okay? There's lots of tool sets you can use, but my suggestion is try them all. See what resonates with you. What do you like? But then don't be trapped by them. If you get in somebody's tool set and they say, well, you take this symbol and you shake it a little bit, or you use this beam of light, and it has to be green, you can't use yellow or blue, and you get into these tools and you say, well, that's kind of confining. I don't think I'm going to do it that way. Take a tool set and change it. It makes you feel better, to where you're more effective with it. And just because, and we'll get some of our tools for healing, I tend to use technical tools for healing. I think light beams are good. It looks like a laser to me. See, lasers resonate with physicists. But if what you like is a magic wand, or fairy dust, or whatever, or your tool might be that somebody else does it. Okay, somebody else does it. The Spirit works through me. I direct the Spirit works through me. I want to work on this, and then I have all this energy that has that's just another tool. Some people believe that they don't have the power. How could I possibly have the power? I'm just this little weenie person here, right? So if I'm going to be effective, it's because somebody else is going to do it. What's strange about that is the people who feel that way, they're so weenie that they can't do it and somebody else to do it, but yet they're powerful enough that these powerful people work for them. It's like, okay, we're going to heal this person. All right, people out there, heal them, and then the people come around and heal and work for them. So they're weenie and they can't do it, but yet, see, they're the commander, right? They're the boss. And all these entities that do have power will focus the way they want them to focus. It's just another tool. It's another way of getting your mind focused, to work with your beliefs, to work with your fears, to work with whoever you are. That's why you need special tools, because you're a unique person. Your beliefs, your fears, your understandings, your experience make you unique. And as that unique person, find tools that work for you. But then keep an open mind. Be skeptical. As you grow, you're going to outgrow your tools. Let those tools go. Remember we said Sunday you have to take the headphones off. You have to do it on your own. Change your tools. This tool isn't working so well anymore. Discard it. Make up a new one. All right. Next to the bottom line on here always makes people sigh. Take the long view. In 20 years you should be good at it. You have to have that view. Okay. Making contact. When you talk and interact with other beings, particularly in the beginning, when you initiate contact, if you're novices or you want to make contact with other beings and other entities other than the ones that you know, your initial contacts ought to be simple, straightforward. Okay, you have information you want to get, say. You want to know something about the larger reality, you want to know something about, what your mother-in-law is going to do, is she going to move in with you or not, whatever. You have information, you have needs, you have some reason that you want to go out there and make a contact, then just go out and ask. You may just say, hello, anybody out there, willing to talk to me? I'd like to know something about this. And of course, what you'll get is a being, which is just another interface, right? Interface with the larger conscious system. It's all one thing, guys. We really are all just one. It's just us. We see it. It's just us. We're just two, right? Just us and the larger conscious system. But it's really just the larger conscious system, because we're just a piece of that too. So it's just the larger conscious system. So you say, hello, anybody out there? And if you have a good intent, and if it will help you learn and grow, if it's not just serving your ego or something, then you'll probably get an answer. If it's just serving your ego because you just want to have a wow experience, well, there's no point in that. Why should the larger conscious system waste resources trying to give you a cool experience? Cool experiences have no value. If it's a learning experience, if it's some experience that'll open your eyes, okay, you'll probably get something. So if you keep interacting with the conscious system, you say the conscious system doesn't like me, it never responds, never talks to me, I don't get anything, I never have any of these neat experiences. Well, it's probably because they wouldn't be of any value to you. The conscious system isn't interested in just giving you a fun ride, taking you for a ride in a carnival. If you want to have these experiences, get yourself to the point where these experiences will help you grow. Approaching from the point where the experience has something to do with lowering your entropy and helping you become love. If you get yourself in that point, then the experiences will come very quickly and very easily and very helpfully. Don't expect the system to want to entertain you. It's not interested. It's interested in you evolving your consciousness. So put yourself in that spot where the connection you want will help you evolve your consciousness, and then you will get the connection that you want. Okay. Make it simple and straightforward. Don't ask long, complex questions. Okay? Because what happens, you'll get long, complex answers that you won't be able to process. Don't ask confused questions. A lot of times the questions aren't well defined. Think of it as querying a database. When you go to Google and query a database, you query it with the most succinct, most well-defined, unique query that you can. Otherwise, you get tons of garbage back that you don't want. You're looking for this one needle in the haystack, and you need to give it a query that focuses right on that needle. If you go to the larger conscious system and you say, "Oh, somebody talk to me," and you get somebody says yes, and then you say, "Hey, what's happening, man?" That's not going to get you anywhere. That's not the kind of question that's going to be useful. Think up a question that's going to help you grow. Think up a question that's going to be useful to your entropy reduction. You see, have the right attitude. All right, then ask and just listen. Don't operate. Don't try to second guess. Again, now you have to turn that intellect off. You just ask, and then you open yourself and listen. Don't second guess. Did I just make that up? You hear this voice, or you get some information, and right away you said, "Did I just make that up?" You start second guessing it. You start judging it. You start analyzing it. Don't do that. Just be open. Whatever you get, work with it. Work with it. Encourage it. Short questions, like a lawyer. Get yes or no answers. That's easy. Some people who want yes or no answers and they can't deal with it intellectually, they have to deal with physical process. They have all these tools they use to get yes or no answers. They can say, "Well, look, if it's yes, no, or maybe, show me a green light, a red light, or an orange light." I know a lady who is a massage therapist, and she has this little pendulum, and she swings this pendulum, she holds this pendulum up, and depending on whether it swings clockwise or counterclockwise is a yes or a no to her questions. You see, these are just devices. Any of these devices can be used as tools. Okay? We have lots of devices. One of the original devices is throwing the chicken bones, right? Throw the chicken bones to divine the future. That comes out of very ancient traditions. And we drop I Ching sticks, and we play tarot cards, and we do all sorts of things. We use Ouija boards. These are all tools. These are all tools that produce an interface between us and a larger consciousness system. That's what they are. These are things that have a lot of uncertainty in them. How those sticks fall, or the cards get shuffled, how the chicken bones fall. These are all things with lots of uncertainty in them. Therefore, they can be configured in kind of any number of ways without violating any rules, right? And if we have some rules that, well, if this chicken bone lands like that next to that bone, it means something. Now we've created a symbol. Or if we drop those sticks, and depending on how they fall, for the I Ching, or we shuffle those cards in a certain way, all this randomness now, the larger conscious system can use that randomness just like it could for synchronicity, right? It can make those chicken bones fall any which way, and it's not going to violate any rules of physics. It's not going to violate any rules of historical consistency. You've just developed a way to open up an interface. Does that pendulum swing clockwise or counterclockwise, you see? Do I see a red light, a green light, or whatever? You can have your data come any way you wish. Okay? So these things, you throw in the chicken bones, of course, that works. Why does it work? Because you've created a set of metaphors and symbols with those chicken bones, and it has a lot of uncertainty, and the system can work with you. It can become a communication link. Well, it's a pretty low bandwidth communication link. All those things are. You can get a much higher bandwidth. In other words, you get a lot more information and a lot more detail through other ways other than maybe chicken bones or cards or things. But so the people who do these things are the key to what's going on. So if the person who throws the chicken bones, the person who deals the tarot cards, the person who drops the stick, their intent and consciousness is the active ingredient. There's no magic in the bones or in the cards or in the stick. It's the intent that connects with the with the larger reality. So the person throwing the chicken bone says, I want to know, the future about such and such, and they're basically making the connection with the future probable database. They've queried it what they want, and their output format of the data is how the chicken bones arrange themselves. And they've produced a process of high uncertainty so that it's easy for those bones to be arranged any which way without violating any rules, you see. So that's what's going on. A Ouija board, when you hold your hand up like this, the servo motors, if you will, in your arm, the muscles that contract, these kind of motions back and forth aren't very strong directions. You can't push with the side of your hand with a lot of force. So it kind of wanders. So if your hand on that little puck that goes around for the letters on the Ouija board, there's a lot of randomness in that. It can move this way a little or that way a little, and it's not like you have to do much to make it do that. There's a lot of randomness in it, so that works pretty good. Hey, there's a method that you can use to make a connection with the larger conscious system in some way. Okay, same with all those things. Astrology. There's a lot of ways you can interpret the data. Okay, if you're an astrologer, you can say amazing things. You can predict futures. I had an astrologer tell some amazing things about me that came true like in a year or so later. You can do some really good things with astrology if you know how to do it, but it's not the stars and the planets. It's because those stars and planets are so complicated that there's so much uncertainty in how you interpret them. What does it mean? Okay, so the astrologer has a mental connection, and they're asking a question in the database. They're saying, what's going to happen here? What's the prognosis for this person and their life and what they're going to do? So that goes out to the database. They get it back, and what they get back helps them interpret all of this astrological data to give them the answer that they got. You see, if that was not so, then an astrologer would have long been replaced by a computer, because a computer can compute where the moons and the suns and the planets and everything were much more precisely. A computer can compute all that to 32 decimal places and can do it in less than a second. Everything, and it can compress it. It can forward it 20 years into the future in less than a second. Computers would be awesome astrologers if all it was, oh, when this date is this way, it means this. See, if it was the actual stars and planets and things, that's where the information was coming from. If that was a straightforward connection between the places where the heavenly bodies are and the information, a computer would be the most superior astrologer ever. But computers aren't. I mean, you get computer horoscopes, right? But they're not nearly as good as the ones that a good astrologer will do. A good astrologer really does the good ones. They're the ones where it really works. That's where the amazing stuff comes by, because that astrologer is getting data from the database. And they're using a system with a lot of uncertainty in it to interpret what they get. Now, they won't tell you that, but an astrologer who's doing their interpretation, I bet as they're looking at all their data and they're doing all their stuff, if you talk to them about it, they'll tell you they do that at sort of a quiet time when they can get into it, that it's really important for them to be present in the situation where they're doing that. It's not like they can, be listening to some acid rock and, cooking dinner while they're crunching the numbers. It won't work. They have to get into a place where they can make that connection and do it, and it's them. The only active ingredient in any of this is a focused intent. All the rest of it is tools. Okay. So for all the right-brainers out there, this day has been a lot better, hasn't it? Yeah. I've drug you through kicking and screaming through the logical process, and now we finally get to the big picture, to the right brain stuff. All right, well, what about remote viewing? Remote viewing, I think we've talked about it again in the exploration and pictures of the probable future in actualized and unactualized past databases. That's what it typically is, but it can be anything. Remote viewing is just another tool for accessing the available data. So if you want it to be pictures of the past databases in and around the surface of the earth, then fine, you can limit it to that, but there's no need to. It's just another way to collect data. Healing. Okay, we did some healing yesterday. Distance, name, picture, lock of hair, all of that stuff's irrelevant. Time is a variable. One of the things you can do with healing is you can go forward and backward in time. It helps you make good judgments. You may want to go backward in time to when an illness started and work on it there, rather than work on it now when it's already manifested. See, that's the thing that you can do. You may want to go backwards in time to see how long it's been, how chronic has it been. Those are things you can go forward in time to do prognosis. What's this likely to do? And you can. I like to do that in a graphical format. You could do it in a color format if you wanted. I have a graph that on the y-axis, the ordinate, vertical axis, I put health. So if it goes all the way to the top to 1, say, then that's probability of top health, high health. If it goes all the way to the 0, that's no health, probably death. So then you can say, well, let's look at the next month or the next year or the next day or two or whatever, and let's give me the data of how this health is likely to go. And then you can plot that, you can see that curve, and you get some idea of how that's likely to come out. You'll get the data. You might want to then, and what we're going to do today, we're going to do some of these things so you can practice it. You might want to say, well, what's that curve look like if I help? If I get in and start working on this, how can I change that curve? And you can look at the curve and you can see it change a little bit. Or maybe it won't change at all, and that may be a good indication that this is not something you should be working on. So you can ask for data like that. Time is a variable. I've had any number of people write emails to me that said, I watched the video. I've done these experiential exercises and they're on videos. I think the last one that went up on a video was with Hawaii, and that was like a year and a half ago. And I've had a lot of people write, and they say, I took those exercises and I got them all right, or I almost got them all right. And how did that happen? That was a year and a half ago. And you said, I had this thing on a yellow box sitting on the table, and there it was. I said, that's not still sitting on a table, is it, in that yellow box? And I said, no, of course not. Because in their intent, they were here doing it as we are doing it. They were there doing it with us in Hawaii, and they got the same data and the same answers that were available then for the same things in the same places and the same descriptions, the same illnesses. All that stuff had actually changed, but their intent was following along with what we were doing. So they went into the historical database and they pulled out those answers, and sure enough, they were just as easily getting correct answers as the people who were there, and this is a year and a half later. See, time's a variable. You can go backwards and forwards with time. Generating, diagnosing tools, we're going to get into that in just a minute. We're going to practice some of them, make up your own, generate them yourself. Don't force your will on others, don't interfere. Use your intuition. Sometimes it's not good to heal somebody. Sometimes they need what they have. Death is not the big boogeyman, the big monster that you're trying to avoid. The point of being here isn't to feel good and be happy and make money and drink beer. The point of being here is to grow. And sometimes growth, almost all the time, growth comes from hardship. Growth comes from pain. Growth comes from being pressed, being challenged. Things are demanded of us. It's usually when we're feeling like we need to change something. Now we're getting to growth. When you're fat and happy and everything is just going along perfectly, why would you say, I need to change something? You don't want to change anything. You say, oh, I hope nothing changes. This is perfect the way it is. And you're dead in the water at that point. You're no longer growing. You're no longer changing. So stress is good in that sense. It pushes us to make decisions. And sometimes illness is part of that stress. And sometimes it's just part of the feedback system. Sometimes it's part of the rule set. If you happen to have spent 5 years working in the asbestos industry installing asbestos ceilings in schoolhouses, in the 1950s or something, well, the rule set says your probability of lung cancer is going to be high. You see, that's just a rule set problem. So that's not something you necessarily create or not create. Of course, if that probability is high and you never get it, even though maybe the probability goes up to 99%, but it never bothers you, that's probably because you have a good attitude and you're changing the probability. You see, you're modifying that probability to where it's less likely to apply to you. So it's not always something you've done. Oh, I'm paying the price. This is karma. I'm ill because, I need to be nicer or something. Sometimes you are getting a lesson, and that lesson may be of any sort. A growing lesson. It could be that you're getting a lesson in humility. It could be you're getting a lesson in letting go of ego. Sometimes when people get to a point where they realize that they're very ill and that they're dying, often suddenly their reality grows tremendously. Instead of being focused in that tiny little space of everyday problems and yada, 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 and who's doing what to who, and all the soap opera stuff that's going on just kind of, it's not important anymore. Falls apart, and they get a much better look at reality. Suddenly reality, is deeper, full of quality, bigger pictures. Well, that all by itself is a very important opportunity. And you say, yeah, but they're going to die, Well, they've learned something important. So that gets them cumulative, when they do the next chapter. Well, there it is, they've learned something. Well, maybe that facing death experience can be a very educational experience. So the idea that, oh, somebody's going to die, we should fix that. We should take it away. Don't be too quick to manipulate the path that other people are on, even if you think it's for their benefit. You'll know when you work, if what you try to do keeps being rebuffed, then you'll know that it's probably you ought to just leave it alone. Sometimes you'll know that even before you work. You just get the idea. You get the feeling when that case comes to you. You just kind of get the feeling that, it's just the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, just practice will do that. But it's generally not good. The better you get, the easier it is to know. In the beginning, when you're just learning, when I say go out and practice healing because you'll get data, don't worry too much about are you messing with somebody else's path. Just go do it. You're not that powerful that you're really going to mess with anybody's path anyway. Just go do it. Forget about it, because if somebody else really needs that, you're not going to overwhelm them. You're not going to slam dunk them into something that they don't want. Your pushes are more gentle, and if they're accepting of it, then yes, it can be powerful for them if they're accepting of it. If they're not, it probably won't affect them very much, because you actually have to overcome their own path. You have to overcome their history, their probability, their wants and needs, and that takes a lot of force. Now you can do that. Obviously, sometimes it's a push versus pull situation. If you have your mindset that something's going to be this way, and there's somebody else has their mindset that it's not, okay, then both of you are trying to move the probability in opposite directions. What happens? Well, it's like anything else. Whoever's got the biggest push, moves it the most. So yes, it's not always, it's not always independent. You're not the only actor in the world. There are other people who have intents that are interacting with your intents. So if somebody has an intent that this is their time to go, that they're going, this is their illness, this is their death, it's their time to go. If that's their intent. You could, if you were powerful enough, slam that intent and make them stay anyway, but that wouldn't be nice. And if you were powerful enough to do that, you wouldn't do it. because that means you would have grown up enough to have gotten that power to know that you shouldn't do that. If you're not all that powerful, then it really doesn't make any difference if you sometimes push on things that shouldn't be pushed on, because you're not really going to damage anything. Your energy just will be refused. You'll be trying to do it and nothing will happen. It'll just be refused. So get sensitive to being, to that sort of thing. Don't make it I'm going to make this my way no matter what. I'm going to do this thing. Be sensitive. Sometimes you should just let it go. You don't have to do this thing. It's not always my way or win. And death is not always a big problem. Sometimes that's a good solution, because you're going to just start up another one, and now you'll be a little smarter because what you learned through that death process. You'll be a little brighter. Don't take that away. Don't make that death process a fearful, non-thinking denial process. You see, now you rob the person of the opportunity to learn something from it. Make that a growing process, a terrific process, a time for bigger picture. So you want to encourage that view rather than, sobbing and miserable about it. Kind of makes it harder for a person to learn. So you need a different attitude, or a good attitude toward death. So use your intuition about what you should do and how you should do it. When you're working with colors, sometimes you'll be healing and you'll put that white light on them, and it'll just come to you that would be really better if that was a light blue light, or if that was a green light, or if it was this way or that way. Do it. Follow your intuition. Don't say, well, the tool I use is a white light. So that's what I'll do. Be open. Let your tools change for the situation. Let the way you use them change for the situation. Okay, collect as much evidential data as you can. I think I said this yesterday. For maximum effect, maintain background intent and awareness. Repeat several times a day for several weeks. If you're just learning and trying to collect data, that's what you should do. Okay. And use parallel processing. Makes the process more efficient. That means you can do it while you're at work, while you're doing other things. You don't have to have that special time. So it doesn't have to be just that 20 minutes a day when you meditate. It can be any time. And it can only be 30 seconds worth. You don't have to sit down and work on it for a long time. For just 30 seconds, you can bring that person to mind, see their energy body as bright white, and then hold that intent and go back to what you were doing. It just takes seconds. And that does work. Okay, I think we already did this, parallel processing. Learn to meditate in difficult situations. That's how you learn to operate in several realities at once, and it makes your ability to hold the state much better. Because once you get the ability to hold that point conscious state on a school bus full of kids, you've got it. You're good to go. You could probably hold that state forever. You see, so that's the kind of challenge you should do. And it's like you use it or lose it. If you don't, it's evolution, it's learning. If you don't press that, if you don't try to do that, then you'll never learn to do that. If all you've ever done is meditate while you sit in a special chair with special things going on, then you're stuck there. If you don't have that chair and that quiet and those special things, you're dead in the water. So it's better to be flexible. And if that chair and those things, really, you relate to them and resonate to them, by all means, do them whenever you can. But you don't need to stick with that fear. Fear and negative beings, sometimes these are the same thing. Fear allows negative beings to make a connection with you. Fearful situations are often used by your guides as a test of your readiness to explore. Fear is a kick me sign. Become fearless first and then explore. Very unlikely anything will hurt you. Fear will ruin your ability to interpret your experience accurately. Fear will inhibit your ability to learn and grow from your experience. Gaining access is a self-balancing situation. You generally cannot get to where you do not belong. We've been all over that. Staying balanced. This one we haven't been over. This is important. We've been talking about this left brain, right brain thing, but what you really need to be is both brains. You need to be able to stay balanced, and you need to be able to stay balanced in a lot of ways. You should be able to use logical process. we need this in our world, right? Where are my glasses? Where are my car keys? You know, how do I get from this point to that point? You know, when would be a best time to drive it? You have all sorts of things that happen, things you need to learn. Logical process will help you through your life. So you need to be able to do that, and you need to be able to see things logically, because that's where the skepticism comes in. You need to be able to assess things. Does this have value for me? Am I learning things? Well, these are all logical process things. And you also need to have that right side. You need to be intuitive. You need to be in touch. You need to feel your environment as well as calculate your environment. You need to kind of connect with people. When you're interacting with somebody, it's not like they're there, you're here, and we're two separate things, and we're throwing words back and forth. You ought to become connected with that person. You ought to feel their feelings, know their attitudes, share their pain, understand where they're coming from. What is it that they're trying to say? And see it from their eyes, walk in their shoes. You know, you should have some connection there. That's the right brain part of the world, is you're connected to everything in the right brain. And you need that connectedness. In the left brain, you're single, you know, every man's an island, right? You're single, isolated being interacting with other single, isolated beings. In the right brain world, you're just one of a big family, you know, you're connected to the whole of everything. So try to stay balanced. Another way you have to stay balanced is, would it be a good idea to meditate, 6 hours a day? Say, oh, I'm really going to get into this. I'm going to do it. Let's meditate all the time until I get this. No, that would be out of balance. Is it a good time to never meditate because all that stuff doesn't mean anything anyway? No, that's out of balance on the other side. What you need to do is find some balance in your life where you have both spiritual things, where you have things where you work, you have to earn a living, you have children to take care of, you have parents to take care of, you have, whatever's in your life. It's all good. We're here to experience, we're here to interact, and it's all good. If you get too far out of balance, you say, oh, this is the part that feels good, so I'm just going to do this. You start to get out of balance. You're chasing your ego into something that feels good. You need it all. We're here to interact. Go sit in the cave, cross your legs and meditate to become spiritual. That's not a good idea. You'll become unbalanced. You may learn some things while you're sitting in that cave, but there's a lot of things you'll miss. The big teacher that we have is relationship. Relationship is where it comes out probably more strong there than anywhere as to who we really are. Because once you've been with other people and you're familiar with them and they're your friends and they're your loved ones and you have a good relationship with them, you tend to act the way you are. The pretense, the here's the way I think you'd like me to be, that's the way it is on the first date, right? That's the way it is in the courting phase, right? You're trying to be likable. You want to be a certain way. You're living to an image, but then, after you really get the real thing, then you're the real person. You start to act just exactly the way you are. So relationships are good because your ego shows in those relationships. Is it about you or is it about them? Is it your needs, your pain, the way you'd like to have it? Or are you trying to service their needs and make it the way they like to have it? You see, our self-centeredness and our ego and our fears, are we afraid about other and that other doesn't like us enough, or maybe other will wander away, or maybe other isn't, we're not competent enough, we're not good enough. We have all these fears and they all come right up to the top in relationship. So keep your spiritual, your job, your relationships, keep everything balanced together. All of it together is more powerful than doing any one part of it. Don't just do the part that feels good. Do all of it. So, what do I need to know about the future? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have people coming to me all the time and say, Tom, what's your take on 2012? What's going to happen? Is it going to be death and destruction? The trumpet's going to blow and everybody's going to get a plus up and spiritual equality and all these things going on. Most of that stuff is fear-based, and the rest of it is very hopeful. It's based on wishes. The fear-based stuff is counterproductive. Okay, remember we said that you bias reality with your intent. If you have a fearful intent, you tend to make your fears come true. And that happens throughout our life in every way. Let's say you feel unlovable. You feel inadequate. How do you act if you're inadequate? Well, if you're female, you probably kind of back away and get in the corner and don't, you become a wallflower. If you're a male and feel inadequate, you probably puff up and strut and try to make like you're big and important. Okay, so if you're inadequate and you fear that you're inadequate and that people won't like you because of it, guess what? You'll act in a way that people won't like you because of it. You see, you make your fears come true. So if you feel that you're small and you compensate by being a bully, people won't like you. It's just, we make our fears come true. If you fear that your children are going to get into drugs, so you put them on a very tight leash, you lecture them, you do all this kind of stuff, you'll probably drive them to take drugs. You see, you make your fears come true. So 2012 and all this fear that's wound up about it, that's a whole lot of energy trying very hard to make something disastrous happen. You see, it's not helpful. So what do you need to know about the future? Nothing. Let the future happen as it happens and deal with it. That's what we're here for, is to deal with whatever happened to us and deal with it in a way that we grow up. We make the right choices. So, okay, let's say you get good at this and you can get into that future probable database so you can kind of tell what's coming, you can manipulate some probabilities. Should you do that? Should you spend your time manipulating your reality to be the way you want it? It's not very profitable. No, let it go. Just take it the way it comes. Deal with it. You don't need to change it, fix it. If you do that, you're just getting in your own way of growing up. You're messing up with your own opportunities. Your ego and intellect are now in charge of creating your world. You're short-circuiting your, what's important. At the being level, it's your being is being denied growth opportunities because your intellect and ego are stepping in front trying to make the world the way it wants, the way it feels good. Okay, so you will find, I have found in general, that the people who have the most power, the most ability to change things the way they would like them, use it the least. Use it very, very seldom. They're not interested. Because there's no point. What we're here for is just to react to things, deal with it. All right, life is hard. Life sucks, right? I mean, it's just terrible. You just got fired, your rent went up and all these things. Well, deal with it. How you deal with it is what's important. That your rent went up or you lost your job is really not all that important in the big picture. What's important in the big picture is how you deal with it. Rich or poor isn't important in the big picture. It's how you deal with it that's important. Anything. Okay, so what do you need to know about the future? Nothing. Don't worry about it. Let it take care of itself. All right, now we're going to do some more experiential exercises. These are going to be similar to what we did yesterday, but they'll be different, and we're going to learn some different tools. Not that you should use all of these tools, but I expose you to as many tools as I can in this short amount of time, just so you can pick and choose and see that there are these different tools and maybe spur your imagination to make some up of your own. Okay, again, I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go fast on purpose because the longer you have to think about it, the more likely you are to get in your own way. So we'll keep it moving. If you get behind or get lost or fall asleep or whatever might happen to you, just come back to it and start taking part. Everything needs to be gentle, no push, no try, just do. Okay, we're going to manipulate time in this one. We're going to manipulate time in one of our healings, as I remember. All right, we're going to do a couple of warm-ups just like we did just like we did before. Now remember, your imagination is all you need in healing as far as the picture of the body, because that's just a target. That's just a metaphor for the target of what you're trying to do. It's just an intent focusing thing. Okay, that's all that's required. As far as your diagnosis goes, no, we don't want that to be your imagination. We want that to be data that you collect, because you use your intent to get data from the database. So just relax, let everything go. We're going to do a couple of warm-ups here. Get comfortable. Okay, I want you to imagine that you're riding in a speedboat. Ride in a speedboat, very high rate of speed on the water. Two perspectives. You're on the boat, you feel it bounce, hear the roar of the engine, and you're off the boat on the bank. You're watching it go by. Okay, I want you to see a beehive. Zoom in on a bee. Now become that bee. Become a bee and go inside the hive. Look around, interact. Okay, I'd like you now to imagine that you're walking into a bakery. Walk around the bakery, look in the cases, breathe the air, smell the smell. Now imagine that you're running your hand over a fur coat. Feel the texture. Now I want you to imagine a health energy body with lung cancer. Imagine a health energy body with one dysfunctional kidney. Now one with a brain tumor. Now imagine one with the flu and one that has no health problems whatsoever. Okay, imagine your own health energy body. Notice the state of your mind as you look at your own health energy body. Check your feelings. Now look at the health energy body of a significant other, a loved one, and notice your state of mind and your feelings. Now look at the emotional body of someone who is happy and feeling terrific. Now look at the emotional body of someone who's sad, someone who is very angry, someone who is depressed and suicidal. Now look at the emotional body of a couple falling in love. Now look at your own emotional body, the way it is now. Then look at it the last time you were very angry. Okay, look at the spiritual body of a saint, of a homicidal maniac, of a drug addict, of the average person. Now look at your own spiritual body. Notice the state of your mind and your feelings. Now look at the spiritual body of a significant other, a loved one. Again, notice the state of your mind and your feelings. Okay, that's all of the exercises we're going to do with that. Now what I've just done is calibrated you. You've just been calibrated. The images you got are the images or the metaphors that you associate with those things that I just said. Okay? Now all of you got different images. You all saw different things. You all interpreted what I said different ways. But that's how you interpret. Those are your own personal metaphors for these various illnesses or different states, you know, of anxiety or fear and what they look like. So when you see something that looks like the things you've just seen, you'll sort of know how to categorize them because that's the way you see them. That's the metaphor that comes to you. But now let those metaphors have the ability to change. The metaphors you have today aren't necessarily the metaphors you'll have tomorrow because you'll grow and you'll change. Your metaphors ought to grow and change. But you've just been calibrated as to what these things mean to you in terms of pictures, feeling, whatever it is you get when you look at something. Okay, that's the nature of it. All right. Okay, now I think there's a couple of you that are here that weren't here when we did this last time, so I'll just make a few general comments. When I'm going to ask you to heal a person, I'll just give you a first name. I'm going to ask you to remote view something. I'll sometimes tell you where it is. I'll sometimes just tell you to go do it. I may give you coordinates, whatever. The way you do that is you do it by making an address. When you have your intent, I intend to heal this person. How do you identify this person? It's the person that I'm talking about. It's the person that I'm telling you about. So I can say Mr. X, and that works just fine. It's the Mr. X that I'm just asking you to heal. Okay? If I tell you that there's something in a box, well, it's which box? There's thousands of boxes in the world. Oh my God, which box am I going to look in? You know, he didn't say where the box was. That doesn't matter. It's the thing in the box that I'm talking about, you see. I don't know anything about coordinates. If you tell me it's, 87.652 degrees north, I have no idea what you're saying. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's that place that has those coordinates, you see. So that makes it a unique address. You need a unique address, otherwise the mail won't get delivered. So you need a unique address as a unique query into the database so that you can get an answer. All right? So that will catch some of you that weren't here up on the way to do that. Okay, the right approach is important. It's the most important thing. It's the same thing we did before. Disconnect your intellect. You need to be just open. Disconnect that intellect. Don't analyze. Don't second guess. Don't try to make sense of your answer. It's just data. Don't even try to come up with a metaphor. You know, that thing we had yesterday that was the apple core that had all those little wedgies around the circle? Well, there are some people that saw that as orange slices. You see, if you cut an orange in half and you hold it up, what does it look like? It looks like a circle with all these little wedgie shapes in it, right? So it says, oh, I know what that is. That's an orange, okay? A good remote viewer won't impose their own metaphors on what they see. A good remote viewer will just see, oh, I saw a bunch of wedgies in a circle. And it kind of had a lump over here and a lump over there. Because as soon as your mind says that's an orange, now suddenly the handles that are attached to that orange lump on either side don't make so much sense anymore. You see, so you kind of throw them out. So you as soon as you start sticking a metaphor to it, you've basically stepped in the way of your ability to get the data. So that's hard to do. Takes a lot of training, because as soon as we see something, we want to make sense out of it. We need to name it, rather than just saying, all right, I see a pattern and it looks something like this. So the metaphors will sometimes mess you up as well. So try not to analyze. It's generally the very first idea that comes into your mind. Just open your mind and be open to it, that's all. You don't have to do anything to get it. Let it happen, no expectations, no effort, no intellectual control, no analysis. Forget about answers being rational, making sense. They don't have to make sense. They won't necessarily make sense to you. Just get the data and see what you've got. And that's like I said, a very difficult thing to do. Don't be in control. Don't feel like you have to be in control. It's okay to be wrong. Okay, give yourself permission to get a wrong answer. That's maybe a better way to say it. Give yourself permission to get a wrong answer. Say it doesn't matter anyway. Nobody's going to know if my answer's wrong. Okay, and we won't. We're not taking score here. So just take your answer. Say, I can be wrong and it won't make any difference. It's okay. I'm just learning some methodologies. I'm just learning some tools and ways to go about things. And the tools that I'm telling you is a very, we call it minimalist set of tools, right? We're throwing away all the normal process and normal rituals that go with this thing. You know, you're not lying down in bed, you didn't meditate first, you didn't relax first, you're not doing any of that kind of stuff. So this is the minimalist set of rules. But it'll give you some minimalist tools and ways to go about it. Let your beliefs go. The idea that you can't do it is the worst, and this I can't do it idea is not an idea that's generally going to be in your intellect. Everybody in their intellect is saying, oh, I'd like to do this. But if you have a belief that this is impossible or doesn't work or you can't do it or you always fail at this and you're not good at this kind of thing, then if that belief, even if it's not in your intellect, that will get in your way. Because this all happens at the being level, not at the intellectual level. Don't worry about the details. When I say make a humanoid image, don't stress on making it a picture. Feel it, intuit it. It doesn't have to be a high-res image. It's just a metaphor. Just do the best you can. Get whatever you get comfortable. And once we start going, we're going to be going there and coming back, going and coming back, going and coming back. Don't talk or disturb anybody else. If the background bothers you, if it makes a noise, if you hear noise out in the hall or somebody sneezes or coughs, just accept it and let it go. It's not important. Don't operate on it, you see. Okay. Now last time, I showed you this slide after we did the exercise to show you some of the reasons why it didn't work. But this time I'm going to show it to you before the exercise so you'll know not to do these things. Okay. The major problems are noise, the constant chatter going on in your mind, analysis, guessing, lack of steady focus. Okay. Anybody have trouble with the imagine exercise? Imagine you're in a speedboat and so on. Anybody have any trouble with that? They were just rock steady and good, weren't they? They were easy. I mean, that was just trivial. That's the way it should be when you do these. It ought to be just the same way. It's the same sort of thing. See, a gingerbread cookie ought to be just like, you're in a speedboat. It's not a problem. But for many people, oh, they tell me, I did the imagination exercises easy. They were clear and crisp. I could smell, I could hear, I could feel. And then as soon as you asked to do a humanoid outline, I couldn't get one. It just wouldn't form up. I couldn't do it. I just got a blank. Well, why is that? It's the same thing. That's a performance anxiety. Because now you're doing the real thing, not the pretend thing. And that's a performance anxiety. So don't let that bother you. You have to hold these multiple intents. After you make an intent, that intent has to stay there. It can't just wander off. You have to kind of hold that intent there in your mind. You get a stack of intents. Fear of being wrong, fear of not able to do it, expectations, belief, inability to remain a detached observer. It's not about you. Being a detached observer takes practice. Okay, so those are the things that you need to not do. You need to tell your intellect to be quiet, and you just open for the answer. This time we're going to have 2 diagnosing, 2 healing, and 4 remote viewing exercises. And again, I'll say for those watching the video, of course this will all be a video, hopefully in about a month you'll be able to see all this and do it again and revisit it. For those watching the video, intend that you are looking at these people and remote viewing these objects as they were on September 24, 2011. Your efforts to diagnose and heal will be applied generally to promote better health of these people. Whether the remote viewing test objects still exist or not makes no difference. You will see them the way they were on September 24, 2011. So even people seeing this 5 years later will be able to do these same exercises and get all the results right. They'll just be taking data from a past database. All right, go ahead and get relaxed. Close your eyes if you want to. Listen to your background sounds so that they don't surprise you. Just listen, see what it is in the background and accept it and deal with it gracefully. Okay, experiment 6. See or imagine a 3-dimensional humanoid outline, something like a thick gingerbread cookie. Intend clearly that this humanoid outline represents the physical health energy body of Memphis T, as it is at this moment. Hold that intent. Intend clearly that the energy that represents health in this energy body be white, and what represents a health problem be dark. The more serious the problem, the darker the energy looks. Now hold that intent. Intend that the humanoid shape's back is facing you. Its right side is now the same as your right side. Notice where the dark areas are and which are most dark. With your attention on the dark spots, rotate the image of your viewing angle so you are looking at the side view. Now look at the front view. Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and roughly draw what you have seen. Then immediately return to the viewing the health energy body of Memphis T. Repeat the last few steps and check to see if you get the same thing. Make sure you have drawn it more or less correctly. Make corrections as needed. Okay, return to viewing the energy body. Watch the health body as you clearly intend that the energy body no longer represents the state of Memphis T health at this moment, but that it now represents the health of this person yesterday. Use your intent to slip back in time one more day, and then another. Now similarly move back in time 1 week at a time until you see the dark spots, the dark areas, disappear. Keep track of the number of weeks that have passed. If the black spots do not fade or go away, go back a year at a time, and so on. When the dark areas do fade away, determine how long ago that was. If you lose where you are in time, start over. When you get to where the illness started, look at the energy body just as the illness began to manifest within the body. And at that moment, use your high-powered light energy beam to heal the illness before it dominates the body. Now slowly move back to the present time, 1 increment at a time, making sure that the ailment did not reinsert itself between then and now. If you find the illness was reinserted, pause there at that time and heal it again. Proceed like this until you work yourself back to the present moment. Now use the beam to make the energy body glow with intense white light. Make the white so bright that it hurts your eyes. Then put on sunglasses and turn the brightness up even further. Intend that this energy body remains super, bright, healthy white for a long, long time. Intend that the energy you have placed on Memphis T's body is so great that it will maintain the energy body in a brilliant state for a long time, and hold that intent. Now, using your intent in the same way, given what we have accomplished with our healing efforts, watch this health energy body as you increment time into the probable future for at least 5 years. Remember what you see. Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and roughly draw what you have seen. When you finish drawing, return to the void. Just float there. Repeat the last few steps and check to see if you get the same thing. Make sure you have drawn it correctly. Make corrections as needed. Then immediately return to floating in the void. Experiment 7. See or imagine a 3D humanoid outline. Intend clearly that this humanoid outline represents the health energy body of Carolyn D. as it exists at this moment, and then hold that intent. Intend clearly that the energy that represents health in this energy body be white, and that what represents a health problem be dark. The more serious the problem, the darker the energy looks, and hold that intent. Intend that the humanoid shape's back is facing you. Its right side is now the same as your right side, and hold that intent. Notice where the dark areas are and which are most dark. With your intention on the dark areas, rotate the image of your viewing angle so you are looking at the side view. Then move to the front view. Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and roughly draw what you have seen, then immediately return to viewing the health energy body. you are looking at the health energy body of Carolyn D. Use some fireplace tongs to grab any black spots and drop them into the large, sturdy, unbreakable jar sitting just to your right. After all the black spots are in the jar, toss the fireplace tongs into the jar and screw the lid on tightly. You may expand the jar or shrink the tongs as necessary. Now toss the jar into a sun where all of its contents are evaporated into disconnected elementary atoms and free particles. Around the edges where the black had been, use a portable wet vac vacuum cleaner to get rid of any lingering gray places. Vacuum up all the remaining gray areas. Alternatively, you may use rubber gloves and a scalpel, dropping what you cut away into a jar. Alternatively, you may use a blowtorch, acid, or a laser to remove any of the dark area. If you use the vacuum, scalpel, or gloves when you're done, use your intent to toss everything, including the scalpel and gloves, into a safe, strong container, and then toss all of it into the sun. Now use your intent to direct a beam of high-powered, intensely bright light to make the entire energy body of Carolyn D glow with intensity. But intend that the light itself pick the color that it should use for optimal long-term healing. Next, intend that the light itself will pick the color that it should be for optimal short-term healing. Continue until all the once dark places are glowing brightly and the entire energy is clean and bright. Intend that this energy body remains super bright and healthy for a long time. Pick a sun from the universe, compact it to the size just larger than the energy body, and place it in the energy body. Intend that the energy you have placed within this body is so great that it will keep the energy body healthy for a very, very long time, and hold that intent. Now clearly intend that the image of the health energy body changes to represent the emotional, egoic, or feeling energy body. Look at the patterns and colors within Carolyn D's emotional body. Now clearly intend that the image of this feeling energy body change to represent the spiritual energy body, a body that represents the spiritual quality of Carolyn D. Look at the patterns and colors within Carolyn D's spiritual energy body. Let that image go and simply float in the void for a moment. Experiment 8. I have a box with a big 8 on it. It's on the table to my right. Intend to have an image of the item in the box put on a screen or monitor in front of you. Remember what you see. Now put that result aside. Now move your vision to the box, and with no expectations of what you might see, look through the box to view the object. Now put that result aside. Next, get a sense or feel for the utility of the object. What does it do? What is its use and function? See it in its natural environment being used. Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and write down or draw what you saw each time. Then immediately return to float in the void. Okay, experiment 9. Intend to go to a spot on the surface of the earth that has these coordinates: 40.68917 degrees north and 74.04444 degrees west. Look around there. What do you see? Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and write down or draw what you saw. Then immediately return to float in the void. Experiment 10. On the table to my right, I have a box with a big 10 on it. Intend to have an image of the item in the box put on the screen or monitor in front of you. Remember what you see. Now put that result aside, move your vision into the box, and with no expectations of what you might see, look into the box and view the object. Now put that result aside. Next, see an image of me taking the object out of the box and showing it to you at the end of the exercise. What is it that I'm holding and showing to you? Now put that result aside. Next, get a sense or feel for the utility of the object. What does it do? What is its cause and function? See it in its natural environment being used. Okay, without losing your altered state, open your eyes and write down or draw what you saw each time. Then immediately return to float in the void. Experiment 11. I have left an object lying directly in the middle of my bed in my home in Alabama. Take a look and remember what you see. Now put that result aside. Next, get a sense or feel for the utility of the object. What does it do? What is its use and function? See it in its natural environment being used. Without losing your altered state, open your eyes and write down or draw what you saw, then immediately return to float in the void. Okay, now I will give you a few minutes to remote view, diagnose, or heal any subject of your choice. Okay, open your eyes and let the experience go. slowly and gradually re-embrace the physical world. After you have fully returned, write down any notes or any of the experiences you might wish to remember, or any comments or questions that may have come up. Take as much time as you need. Okay, let's see what the truth data says. We started with Memphis T on experiment 6, I believe, Memphis T. Okay, Memphis T is a 5-week-old infant, has a birth defect of diaphragmatic hernia. He's on life support system now. Diaphragmatic hernia means that the diaphragm did not fully form, and therefore breathing is difficult. Intestines moved up into the chest cavity. Lungs did not develop very well, so you should have seen problems all in the upper chest. It would have been chest all the way down. You could have had problems. Anywhere in this area would have been a good hit. Okay. Also, there's a lot of systemic things going on since he's on life support system. So you might have seen gray over the whole body. Okay, and you went back in time. You would have had 2 time points as you went back in time that might have been significant as to, quote, when this started. And that would have been the birth, which would have been about 5 weeks ago. That's when the problem started as far as breathing went, because up until that time, his mother was breathing for him. But the actual hernia occurred, the malformation occurred probably in about the 3rd or 4th week of pregnancy, which then would take you back about 6 months from now. 6 months to the rear, if that's the way you defined initial problem. But of course that wasn't a problem until he had to breathe when he was born. So that would then fix your dates. Okay, the second person with the healing experiments, number 7, was Carolyn D. Carolyn D has cancer in her left breast. That one should have been very clear, and it's one of those things that's not systemic. It should have been a very clear spot. All right, experiment 8, a box with a big 8 on it. Let's see what's inside. Now, I purposely picked this because it's not something you would probably recognize, but it may have been a dinosaur. It may have been a person with legs. It may have been, it may have been a mouth, a head, a monster. It could have been any number of things, depending on how you interpret that. So you'll have to look at that and see how your image may have reflected this function or this kind of device. Okay, that was number 8. That one was hard because it doesn't really look a whole lot like anything that you knew about. So this one would have required you to not have a metaphor, to just get the data and put the data down. This one then purposely was picked to be very difficult for you to stick a metaphor on it. Doesn't look like an orange slice, doesn't look like probably anything that you already had a metaphor for. So that would have made this one a very hard target for most of you. Now, the next one was the coordinates. Let's see where that went. Okay. Statue of Liberty. Now, number 10, I have that in the box. Number 10, a comb. Now, this you could have seen as lots of things. You could have had a metaphor of this as a letter of the alphabet, as grass growing up out of the ground. I don't know, use your imagination. You know what? This could have been all sorts of things. You know, you have to look at it kind of from different angles and different ways to see maybe what you would have seen about it. It may have been just a bunch of pointy lines and you may not have gotten the handle, just the fact that there were a lot of lines in it, or whatever. But that's the result. It's a strange looking comb. This one we did something a little different. This one we said we had a third way of looking at it, and that was looking at me showing it to you, right? See, that way you could, instead of just working in the past database of what had been put in the box, you could work through the future database of what it was going to look like when I showed it to you. And both of those are equally easy to access. So you have just as much opportunity to do one as the other. So we jumped into both databases with that one. And let's see, what next? Oh, what is it I left lying on my bed? Of course, those of you who got this right know now that you can come in and look and see what's going on my bed anytime you want, huh? That's what I left lying in the middle of my bed. Now, you might have seen that as the number 2, because it looks like 2 ones, 1 1. You might have seen that in reference to other things. You might have seen that as a table setting or a restaurant or anything that you would associate with forks or culinary things. You know, there's all sorts of associations that you might have that would pop up a metaphor. Now this time you notice I gave you those, to the Statue of Liberty, I gave you those coordinates in decimal degrees rather than degrees, minutes, and seconds. All right, so anybody get any of them right yesterday or today? We have a lot of people who got some of them. Anybody get them all right? Anybody got everything right from both days? That'd be pretty tough, wouldn't it? I had some pretty hard things here. Actually, the black comb was a very hard thing. People and fish both like shiny things. And babies, you know, so something that was like that apple core, it was bright and shiny and had a very distinctive geometric pattern, that's one of the easier things. Things like this that are black plastic are one of the harder things because it doesn't jump out and stand out in your mind. That fork's a combination of both. That's why you might have just seen 2 things, because you may have only noticed the two fork prongs. You may not have noticed the handle. So I gave you some pretty hard ones on this one. Well, all right, that is it. We're going to take a break now, and we're going to come back, and we have all the rest of the afternoon for questions.